it's Mrs. Ross, and I am here today to do a felt board story of the Little Red Hen. And I got this felt board story from a lady in Yakima, and she has an online Etsy business called DM Craft Designs. And if you're interested in buying it, that's where it came from. But I'm going to read to you or tell you the story of the Little Red Hen. We read a couple versions in the classroom, and so when I saw this as a felt board story, I thought we have to have that. So here it comes, the Little Red Hen. Once upon a time, there was a little red hen, and she lived on a farm with some of her friends. There was a dog. The dog loved to just laze around in the sunshine on the deck, and he loved to just relax. There was a cat, and the cat loved to lounge on the couch and just sprawl out and be comfy. And there was a duck, and the duck liked to paddle around in the pond. And there was a pig, and the pig liked to wallow in the mud. And the Little Red Hen was always busy taking care of things around the house. She tended the gardens, she planted things, she made sure things were picked up. She was always just taking care of things. So one day, the Little Red Hen found some little teeny tiny wheat seeds, and she thought, I should plant these, and maybe we could use them, the wheat, for something. So she planted the little wheat seeds, and she called to her friends, who could help me plant the wheat seeds? Not I, said the dog. Not I, said the cat. Not I, said the duck. Not I, said the pig. So the Little Red Hen planted the wheat seeds, and she tended them all summer long. And toward the end of the summer, she had a wonderful crop of wheat. So she called to her friends again and said, who could help me cut the wheat? Not I, said the dog. Not I, said the cat. Not I, said the duck. Not I, said the pig. So the Little Red Hen had to go out and cut the wheat all by herself. Then she said to her friends, who will help me take the wheat to the mill to be ground into flour? Not I, said the dog. Not I, said the cat. Not I, said the duck. Not I, said the pig. So the Little Red Hen did the work all by herself, and she took the wheat to the mill and had it ground into flour so she could make her bread dough. She called to her friends again, and she said, who could help me make the bread dough? Not I, said the dog. Not I, said the cat. Not I, said the duck. Not I, said the pig. So the Little Red Hen did all of the work herself, and she made all of the bread dough. When it came time to form the dough and put it in the pans and bake it, she called to her friends another time and said, who could help me make the bread dough, put it in the pans and bake it in the oven? Not I, said the dog. Not I, said the cat. Not I, said the duck. Not I, said the pig. So the Little Red Hen again did it all by herself. Now, as it was cooking, you could smell that delicious bread, and all of the animals started to perk up. The dog came off of his sunny spot on the deck, and the cat came off of the couch to just check out what that yummy smell was. The duck came out of the pond, and the pig came out of his mud. They all came to see the Little Red Hen and what she had. Now, who will help me eat this wonderful bread? Said the Little Red Hen. I will, said the dog. I will, said the cat. I will, said the duck. I will, said the pig. The Little Red Hen thought about this, and then she said, well, I was the one who planted the wheat and tended it all summer long. I was the one who cut the wheat. I was the one who took the wheat to the miller to make into flour. I was the one who made the bread dough. I was the one who baked it in the oven. And now I am going to be the one to eat the bread. The dog and the cat and the duck and the pig were so disappointed. But you can bet the next time the Little Red Hen needed some help, she had 4 very eager helpers. So that's the story of the Little Red Hen. And you might have heard it told a different way, or you might have heard it with different animals. There's lots of different versions because it's an old story. And in a little while, we'll be baking some bread at our house. I can't wait to smell that yummy bread cooking, and I'll show you how to do it. It's pretty easy, and you might want to do it at home while you're having fun with family over the next few days. See you in a few minutes. Okay friends, I'm back with all of my ingredients, and we are ready to do the bread baking. So I love to bake, and one of my favorite things to bake is homemade bread. And this is my mom's recipe. When my mom used to make it, she would make it on Wednesdays. Wednesday was her day off, and she would always make homemade bread on Wednesdays. And I'd come home from school when I was little, and I could just smell that homemade bread baking. So I still make the same recipe of homemade bread because I just love it. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about this. This is yeast, and this is what I use to make the bread kind of puff up and make it fluffy. And don't be afraid of it, parents who are watching this with your kids. It's not scary. It's something that I use all the time. I keep a giant jar of it in my fridge, and you just have to think about using the right temperature. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. To make my bread dough, I use a bread machine. And I know that a lot of people don't use bread machines anymore. They were popular about 10 or 15 years ago. But I don't ever actually bake the bread in it. I just use it for the dough cycle because it makes it really easy. I guarantee if you're watching this during coronavirus time, that if you go to your Goodwill after coronavirus opens up everything again and you're able to get back out at the stores, there'll probably be a lot of bread machines, so you could even pick one up for a good price. You can do this in a bowl and just mix it by hand and do it yourself. I just have always thought that the bread machine was the easiest thing to just do it on the dough cycle. So I'll show you how to do it. So the first thing that I do to make my bread is I measure out 2 cups of milk. And it says to make the milk scalding. Well, it doesn't mean like scalding hot, like so hot you can't touch it. It means like, I think of it as bathtub water. So if you put your clean finger in there and it's too hot and you think, oh, I wouldn't want to take a bath in that, then it's too hot for the yeast, because the yeast has to be the perfect temperature. If it's too chilly and you think, it's a little cool, I don't think I'd take a bath in that either, then it's too cold and it's not going to activate the yeast. So you want to make sure that you have your milk as just kind of bathtub water. So my first thing I do is I put the milk, which I've already warmed up in the microwave for 1 minute and 30 seconds, I put that in the bottom. And I like the liquid at the bottom so it doesn't, all the flour doesn't get stuck. Now the next thing I do, like I was just telling you, I want bathtub water, so I run my faucet just so it feels kind of warm. Now I have a 1/2 cup right here, and I only want a 1/4 cup of water. So I'm just going to fill this halfway. The reason that I use my 1/2 cup measuring cup, even though I only want a 1/4 cup of water, is because I need to have a little bit of room extra to put the yeast. Now the yeast calls for 1 package of yeast. And you can buy them in little packets, or you can buy it in a big jar like I do because I use it a lot. The same packet will have 2 1/4 teaspoon of yeast in it. And yeast is these little itty bitty tiny little pellets. And I just kind of pour those guys in here. 1, 2, and I usually just put another little 1/4 scoop in there. And then you can just use a knife and kind of stir that up. And then I usually just let that sit in the warm water for a little bit, and it kind of activates it. It makes it do its job. So we've got our yeast sitting in the warm water ready to go, and I'll get that out of the way. Now, I know I said I like to put the liquid down at the bottom, but I like to keep the yeast out until last, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. So the next thing I need is 1 tablespoon of shortening, and my little shortening sticks have a measuring thing on it, so I know I'm putting a tablespoon in here. And I put that shortening in the warm milk so that it'll get kind of melty in there. And then that's going out of the way. And the next thing we're going to put in is our flour. Now our flour, I use bread flour when I do things like cinnamon rolls or breads or pizza doughs. It has a little bit of a leavening agent and kind of makes it a little fluffier. So I already measured 4 cups of flour into my bowl, and I need 6 cups altogether. So I have 4, I'm gonna count on, I need 5, 6, so I need 2 more cups. So I'm just going to scoop out some flour here, and I'm going to get those 2 more cups. And when you're doing flour, you don't want to dip your whole cup in there and get it smashed in, because you want your flour to be kind of light and fluffy so that it doesn't get packed down and measure incorrectly. So I'm not going to flatten it out perfectly, but I'll make sure I got 1 cup, and we'll do 1 more. We'll just scoop that in there. And you can use wheat flour or white flour, bread flour. You can do half and half. Sometimes I've done half wheat, half white, and that makes it kind of nice. So it gets a little messy, but that's all right. So we'll get our other cup in here. And now I know that I have 6 cups of flour in here. And remember I have my milk and I have my shortening in there. So now I'm just gonna scoop all my flour in here. 6 cups, there we go. And the next step is to add in the sugar and the salt. Now the sugar I'm going to sprinkle right over the top, and the salt I'm going to sprinkle right over the top too, and I'm going to use my little bowl or a spoon and make a little well. So I'm just going to push that down just like that. And then I'll be able to put the yeast that's all getting frothy. I don't know if you can see this if I tilt it, but it's getting kind of frothy and bubbly in there. And we want that yeast to be frothy and bubbly. And when I pour it in with the sugar also kind of helps activate it, because yeast likes sugar. So it kind of gets going a little more too with that. So I'll make sure we get all of our yeast out with that water. And that is all of our ingredients. So I'm going to put this in on the dough cycle, and it takes a little over an hour and 20 minutes or so to make all the dough really nice. And then in just a minute, after the hour and 20 minutes, I'll open up the lid and I'll show you what it looks like, because it's all poofy and fluffy. And then we'll use that dough to go into our pans. So next steps coming soon. Okay, I'm back, and the bread is well on its way. So when you take it out of the container, this is what it looks like, and it's all puffy. It's puffed up really well. And I usually take a little bit of flour and sprinkle it on my breadboard. I made sure I washed my hands really well. And then you just pull that dough out, and it's so warm. There's a little piece from the bread machine that I pull out too. So I take that out, and then you can do a little bit of kneading. So to knead the dough, you're just pushing it and pulling it and folding it over on top of itself with your hands. It's kind of a workout. You got to keep working at it. The more you knead, the better your dough is going to be. But you don't want it to get too cold, because you like it to be nice and warm when it's going in the pans. So I usually knead this for a little while, and then I put it in these are some non-stick pans, but I still put a little bit of olive oil in the pan to make sure that it doesn't stick when it's ready to come out. So I'm just gonna knead this up, and then to divide it, because I want 2 loaves, I just twist it just like that, and it breaks apart. So I'm going to spray my olive oil. You can use just like a regular cooking spray, but I use olive oil spray on mine. You spray your pans, and then I try to shape the dough so that it looks kind of like the shape of a long tube, almost like a itty bitty loaf of bread. So I shape that out. Once it's kind of shaped, it's not going to fill the pan all the way, but it'll kind of sit in there. You can see that it's not all the way full, but it'll rise again because it's already risen once in here. And if you're not using a bread machine, then you'll have yours rise just in a bowl. So I'm going to make this one the shape of a long skinny loaf of bread. And I'll put that one in there. And then these two will sit for a little while longer. I'll cover them with a cloth. I usually put them on top of the stove because it has a little bit more heat on it while the oven's preheating. And then I make it so that when they're rising, they just want to be coming above the top of the pan, and that makes it a really nice loaf of bread. If you bake it in this bread loaf container, it just doesn't turn out as good because it's more like a little square or a little rectangle cube, and I just don't like the way that tastes and the way it cooks. So I always cook the dough in my pan. So I'm going to move these over there, cover them up with a cloth, and in about a half an hour, maybe a little bit more, they'll be ready to bake. And I bake them on 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. So I'll let you know what it looks like. Thanks.